By the time I hit my 50s, I'd learned a few things, like how family is precious. Work can always wait. And 99% of people over 50 already have the virus that causes shingles. Not everyone at risk will develop it, but I did. The painful, blistering rash disrupted my life for weeks. Don't learn about your shingles risk the hard way. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist today. Sponsored by GSK.
This summer, serve up the Cookout Classics, Oscar Mayer hot dogs and Heinz mustard. Grill up a dog, add classic yellow mustard, or loaded Chicago style. We all know it's not a cookout without Oscar Mayer and Heinz.
Hi, Ryan Reynolds here for Mint Mobile. Are you looking for a beach read this summer? May I suggest your big wireless bill? It's got suspense, mystery, a slightly flat, emotional arc, and a shocking twist where you realize you've been overpaying the entire time. Fortunately, though, Mint's story is better. Every plan, $15 a month. Even unlimited. That's it. Happy ending. Zero tears. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. See terms.
Instead you caused me pain. You made me cuss and slam the door. And my head in shame. It's over now. It's over now. You talked to me of virtue. You sang a song so sweet. All I know is I can smell perfume of the sea. It's over now. It's over now.
Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Jay Scott, and it is The Hook Rocks, the ultimate rock community podcast. Thanks again for giving us a listen, taking time out of your day to check us out and what we're talking about. Please write us a review at the end of the episode. Reviews are important to podcasts, so please take the time. And again, we always appreciate it. We are part of the Pantheon Podcast Network, of the official podcast network for Metallica. So check out their great podcast on our platform, and you can visit Pantheon Podcasts at pantheonpodcast.com, as well as Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Pantheon Pods. And you can do the same with The Hook Rocks on all three of those platforms. Just search up The Hook Rocks. Please set your app to automatic download wherever you do podcasts, so you get the latest episodes right to your phone, as well as the joy of listening to our previous episodes. We just celebrated our 4-year anniversary with the great guitar player Nita Strauss from Alice Cooper. We also did our 500th episode with Dax Nielsen from Cheap Trick. And recently we welcomed the up-and-coming great blues rock artists Leilani Kilgore and Aaron Coburn, who are about to set out on tour. Of course, I've talked about Leilani in the past. She opened up for Buddy Guy in December. She's a fantastic guitar player, so please check her out. We've also had some great episodes. We had Chris Voss from the record company. We also welcomed throughout the year Rick Nielsen from Cheap Trick, Richie Kotzen from the Winery Dogs, George Lynch, Kip Winger, Scott Gorham from Thin Lizzy, and many more. So please check out all these wonderful and fantastic episodes. And we always like chatting about rock music. And we've got a longtime friend back to the show today. It's been way too long. He is your favorite luthier in Hermosa Beach, California, right off the Strand. We've talked about Eddie Van Halen and his custom guitar work, as he was when he started out with Van Halen and throughout with his own branding of guitar. And then we talked about the unique and simplicity of AC/DC with Angus and Malcolm Young. Prior to this episode, which we're going to talk about another legend, a band that is my favorite, had this guitar player just shape their sound as one of the greatest and top rock bands of all time. Many consider them the greatest of all time. And the guitar player, the band is Led Zeppelin, and the guitar player is Jimmy Page. And I'd like to welcome Mike Longacre from at Mike's Guitar Parlor in Hermosa Beach. What's happening, man? How are you?
It's good to be back, Jay. It's always a fun show, and even your other stuff, the George Lynch one, Kip Winger. It's like, oh my God, that's another Alice Cooper alumni too, right? Yes.
Yeah, way back with on the Constrictor album, I think it was. Way back. Yeah, that's right. You know what? Great way to make that connection. I forgot about that.
Funny when you said that about you just had another guest that she was in Alice Cooper currently, right? Is that what the deal was?
Yes.
Just awesome. But another great subject, and I'm sure this will be the one where you get lots of people that know everything about him, that they should be the person that you're talking to today. I just know what you do, like just, a superhero. I think Jimmy Page is probably my greatest gift that I got later as a guitar player, to learn later what he was really doing. They were great. Zeppelin was great, but once I was playing guitar and I could see what he was accomplishing and what he was setting out to do and able to produce and everything himself, he was able to create such an amazing body of work for us to still learn from every day as a guitar player.
Well, let's kind of start out what we know about Jimmy. And obviously he was a well-known studio musician in the UK. And that's kind of where he met from Paul Jones, when they later formed Led Zeppelin. But he was well known in the studio. I think he did the rhythm guitar on "I Can't Explain" by The Who as one of his great studio accomplishments. And then he was in the Yardbirds. He replaced Jeff Beck after Jeff Beck replaced Eric Clapton. I think that's how the story goes. And then he started Led Zeppelin, and he is regarded as one of the greatest of all time, and well deserved. And it was right around the time where he and Hendrix were really kind of shaping, along with Clapton and Beck too as well. And a lot of people for a long time debated whether Hendrix or Page was the better guitar player. As far as your opinion goes, what were the differences between Jimi Hendrix and Jimmy Page?
I think their greatest gifts probably would have been the textures that they wanted to go get. And, Jimmy Page was more about the using that Indian influence of tunings, and Hendrix was more of the psychedelic sounds, big choruses, flangers, and I want to sound underwater, help develop those kinds of sounds. Really, I think texturally they both wanted to get what was in their brain down on the record. And I think that's where they were similar, but I can't say one was better than the other. They're just the two totally different stylings, they wanted to, I think Jimmy Page was more produced. I think that's for sure.
Now, when you say produced, what does that mean?
I just think Jimmy Page made a storyboard before he even started a song. So everything was about, it's going to start like this, it's going to build like this, and these are the textures I want. And everything was very planned out. I mean, I know, Robert Plant was instrumental in, the lyrics and the sonic drive behind that band is all the drums and John Paul Jones and everything. There's so much going on in that band. And Zeppelin, I think, was way more thought out structurally than Jimi Hendrix was, for sure.
In those early records with Zeppelin, Jimmy's blues influence really was apparent, right? I mean, it was basically, I mean, especially Led Zeppelin 1 and 2, where it was really blues based. Zeppelin 3 got more into the acoustic. And that was always the amazing thing about Jimmy, was he had this tone with blues that was just incredible and so, identifying. And then him on acoustic guitar was so, it was like a lot smoother, if that makes sense. Like, like he had, like, people always call him sloppy on electric. I call that emotion. But on acoustic, when you hear him play, it was like he was dead on. And
articulation.
The articulation was totally different when he played the acoustic versus the electric guitar.
Well, you made a reference to the Yardbirds. I think that's like, all the stories we've all heard. Like he was the one that introduced Jeff Beck to him, and he got in there and gave him that Telecaster as a gift for getting him into the Yardbirds. And then it was painted over and over and all of these things. And that became his number one, but he had already started even really young to try to develop a style that people would recognize him as, and like tried to do things to the guitar aesthetically that like put mirrors on it. And so he could reflect light off into the crowd, and he wanted to set himself apart. And when he left the Yardbirds, he had already played a couple of those songs that would be Zeppelin 1. And it was blues based. And that was how we kind of got Robert Plant, was, this is what I'm trying to do. Here's some Joan Baez, sing this, but I'm going to play it a different way. And so it was blues from the beginning. And his master plan, as I understand from all of the interviews that I've seen, were blues based, try to melt acoustic and electric in one pile, which no one did. And that was how he was going to set himself apart. And I think that's a formidable thing to do in that time, right? 69, right?
Yeah. Just incredible.
He was a guy that was very specific about, this is what I'm going to do with my sound. This is what I want my look to look like. Everything, all his clothes, all that stuff. It's like, there's a reason we drew Led Zeppelin on our Peachy folders back then. It was like, it was a thing, and no one was doing it. They were like the first ones to have a big ass jet, and I mean, they weren't the first arena rockers. That was the Beatles, right? Like doing whole stadiums, but they were the ones that were selling out everything night after night and having to do bigger places. Just amazing. I mean, when you look back at it, and the superstars of Bonham and Plant and John Paul Jones with him, oh my God, it's like it's a superstar basketball team or something,
Yeah. We talk about his playing, and we're going to get more into that. Yeah. But as far as like what he meant to Gibson and the Gibson guitar, because when you see a lot of the iconic images, I mean, at least early on, he used a couple of different styles of guitars. He used a Telecaster, but primarily throughout Zeppelin, it was the Gibson. What do you think his impact was to the Les Paul?
Well, the Les Paul was kind of like a means to an end, right? He had the Tele was his number one go-to. Most of those early recordings are Telecasters. And, he would borrow J200 Gibsons, and he had the 1960 Les Paul Custom, the fabled one that was stolen. They were on a flight from the U.S. to Canada or something, and the guitar just got lost. But he did use that a lot. What he wanted to do was have something that wouldn't feed back as much as the Tele live, and had heard other people using those Les Pauls, and he got that 59. And, once he did that live show that was filmed, that was it. It was playing that guitar, and it just kind of iconically got stuck in everyone's brain. That pickup actually, I think, failed in his 59, and they had to have it rewound by, I think it was someone at Dan Armstrong or something, who was like the big pickup guy at the time. And and he put it back in there, and he's like, it's as good as it's going to get. It's not the way it was, but he ended up using that forever. And even like the 12-string, 6-string that became iconic as well, that was just a result of all the overproduction he did in the studio. How can I play, I think he used a Fender 12-string for like Stairway to Heaven, the, epic, parts where that happens. But he had to have a way to get from that to the solo seamlessly live. And that was the tool that made it work. So that's where that came from. It wasn't like, I need to get this and write a song for it, or, I like it.
It's almost like the song forced him.
Oh yeah, absolutely. On that guitar, for that one, for sure. And he used those Dan Electros and everything. Those goofy little lipstick. They're like pressed wood, and I don't think anybody today would play those things if it weren't for all of the recordings he did with that, and showing how cool and versatile they really could be. He knew how to record. I mean, he was doing that. He was probably 7 to 10 years younger than every studio musician when he was doing it in his teens, and was developing his sound and his chops. And he was self-taught too. He wasn't like a big school guy. He was, and I think that helps a lot, because he was chasing his own sound and his own styles. And then when people would ask him to do stuff live in the studio, and they'd just kind of let him go, because he was kind of known for being able to do that. He could pull from all of these things he had used to build who Jimmy Page was going to be in the future. It's really neat to go back and listen, like you said, doing stuff for the Who. Who gets to say that?
Yeah, I mean, when you think about his career, being a studio guy, I think he was in some bubblegum rock band before he became a session guy. And then he had this vision of Zeppelin, as the story goes, and he, met John Paul Jones. And I think the original singer was going to be Terry Reid. I think that was it.
Yeah, there were a couple of them that didn't do it. Yeah, and they couldn't. Yeah. And he needed it to happen right away.
And Terry recommended Robert Plant.
Yeah, he went to go see him in a show somewhere.
And Bonham was backing up Plant, in his band, and that's the history. But
yeah, I heard Bonham too was also like he was playing in some other like money making deal. Like he was playing drums for like some job where they used him to just bill and do his thing, and it was like a good paycheck, and he didn't want to leave it. And it was not until they all got together, it was like, come on, kind of what you said, Robert Plant dragging him to a practice or something, and they banged out, I think Train Kept a Rolling or something, and that was it. Like, it's so cool to think about all those guys. That is like a super group, like from the get-go. John Paul Jones was piano playing, and all the keys and all of the bass playing, song skills, singing, everything. He was a perfect, match for that bottom end with Bonham. Oh my God.
Yeah, no, he's probably one of the most underrated members of the band. He is the most underrated,
for sure,
man, because I don't think Led Zeppelin is what they are without JPJ.
For sure. I mean, who would have put a recorder on, Stairway to Heaven?
But that's this thing. Like, he had this double neck because of Stairway, and Stairway is, if not one of the most iconic songs in the history of music. And there's these images of him with this heavy double neck that, because he wasn't a big guy either.
Yeah.
And he's got this big guitar around him, and he's playing this. And I've picked up a double neck years ago, and I'm almost 6'2", and I was like, man, how do you like walk around?
It's for real.
This is crazy, So it's just for him to play that, drunk and high most nights too, as well. Yeah. That is remarkable in itself.
Just awesome. Like, and all those guitars. He had so many. I think he's one of those guys that never sells a guitar. He's got every single guitar he ever had, I'm pretty sure. I read that somewhere.
As he moved on with Zeppelin, and they started to create more. Obviously, the first two albums are really blues based. Led Zeppelin 3 kind of saw them bring more of a folk feel to their song, to their music. And it got to the point where they could do anything after Led Zeppelin 3. And then you hear some of the rhythm and some of the beats on Led Zeppelin 4. It becomes more in Houses of the Holy, and then really evident in Physical Graffiti is what you talked about, those Middle Eastern elements of music tied in with the blues, which when you talk about that and you hear someone doing that, there's no way this could work.
Yeah.
And it does.
Well, and he's producing too, so he could just do whatever he wanted and execute it. Like, this is what's in my head and I want to get it on tape. And he wasn't afraid to grow. They got so big, they could do whatever they wanted to, you weren't at the mercy of the record company saying, well, we want this or we want that. And so they weren't afraid to try new ground. And there'll be people that say, oh, that record's not as good as those or the newer ones or anything like it's kind of like the Van Halen groups, right? Love them or hate. Even all the other stuff he did later, right? With Tony Franklin, all the Firm stuff with Paul Rodgers and everything. How can you do wrong with that too?
Even the stuff with David Coverdale was great.
Right.
What is his signature guitar lick or move or playing style? What do you think it is?
It's definitely all blues boxes. That's his thing. And, you alluded to, some people call him, fumble fingers or whatever. I didn't even appreciate any of that until much later in life. But I think my favorite thing is what you alluded to earlier with the acoustic, like his structure of moving lines acoustically to me are just unmatched. I think it started a wave of that kind of writing too. And it's still blues based.
Yeah. I find when he's playing acoustic or when, a Zeppelin has a song, whether it's That's the Way or Tangerine or, obviously Stairway and the Rain song, it's like this band that, in this guitar playing, I should say, his guitar playing on electric is bluesy. It's chaotic. It's feeling, it's emotion. And when he goes to acoustic, it seems like it's like so peaceful. And, there's so much breath in between the notes and the playing. I just find it remarkable.
Yeah, but there's so much more. Like when he got more into the depth, of like Hangman is really, dissonant and
Alice Paul. Yeah.
And Friends is probably one of my favorite. I think it's like open C sharp or something kooky. But it's funny. There's a piece you could look it up. It's this old Philharmonic writing guy named Holst, and he had this whole piece about all the different planets. It was called Planets, and it was the God of War, and it is Friends. Like, it is almost verbatim, and he does it with that open tuning. It's the coolest thing. Check it out sometime. Just type in The Planets by Holst as the God of War, and then put on Friends, and there's no question. That's what he was doing. And it is very eerie, and it's acoustic. So it has all of this tension and using the acoustic in a different way. It's really neat.
You mentioned tension, and that was the other thing I think that Page is really known for is, I know Hendrix was very psychedelic and it created a mood, and Beck, obviously, all those greats did. But one of the elements that Page brought with his playing was this atmosphere of tension, like build up, almost, like when you hear Kashmir,
Yeah,
and
epic
you hear,
tales. Yeah.
yeah, it's like his tone and the way he plays is bringing you on a journey. It's bringing you on a path to where you don't know. I don't know if there's another guitar player that could have ever created Kashmir in the way he played and the structure of it, and just that constant driving tone, and along with the beat from Bonham. And what's also remarkable about that is his ability to say not to have a guitar solo in the middle of Kashmir.
Yeah.
Just keep it going. I mean, that was one of the things too, because a lot of guitar players at his level have the ego. They need to put a solo in there. And there's a lot of great songs that Zeppelin has where there's no guitar solo.
Yeah. I think it just lends itself to what I was saying earlier, where it's a storyboard before he even starts the song. Like, what am I trying to say? And then how am I going to go about saying it? And then putting the song together and then getting it on tape the way that I hear it, and getting everybody else on board in the band and everything. It really, it's a lot to ask of a band to have someone with that much vision. And, like you said, how do you check that ego? You're the producer, you're the engineer, you're the one getting the sounds of the guitar on tape, and then creating a story that doesn't miss out. There was a lot of people that said live, even they were one of the only bands that were able to go in and get a jam going between a song and come back and know when you were going to lose the crowd, which I think that says a lot. I've been to a lot of shows where it gets a little out of control on that stuff. Like we just going into a jam, like Grateful Dead kind of syndrome. Okay, 13 minutes of the same four chords, but we're going to play solos over it.
I have bootlegs of some of those recordings, and I have bootlegs with 40-minute versions of Whole Lotta Love, 40-minute versions, 48-minute versions of Dazed and Confused, which you listen to, you see the timestamp on the bootleg, you're like, dude, how am I going to listen to a song that's 48 minutes? And like you said, they break it down and they start doing medleys in between between the solo and the chorus, and they do all these blues numbers and these solos, and that was why, if anyone ever asks why did they not continue when Bonham passed away, it was because they couldn't do that stuff with anybody else, because they knew each other so well that a lot of that stuff was improvised. And the magic.
I don't know of any drummer today. Like, I'm not that old. I mean, there's guys that are hardcore Zeppelin people. I would say he was one of the best drummers of all time, like making things happen in a way that weren't happening at the time. Just super powerful, like you said, and a beast of a drummer. He hit so hard too,
Well, he hit the drums so hard, and usually, you're exerting a lot of energy, or most drummers, when they did at that time hit the drums hard, they would exert so much energy, it would take them out of the song almost.
Yeah.
He was just able to do it with his wrist. His pounding, it was with his wrists and his hands. And that's why he was able to kind of do and be so versatile like he was, which was just incredible.
What you're saying, there's a thing, you can look it up on YouTube, of the drum track with the overhead mics and everything of him doing Fool in the Rain. And he's grunting and moaning and everything through it all on the hits. It's so cool. And then that drum beat ends up being most of what was Rosanna from Toto, that and that was Porcaro's, like, says it. Yeah, I stole that from Fool in the Rain, and then I just added the Buddy, it wasn't Buddy Guy, who was it? It was Bo Diddley.
Yeah.
Boom, boom, doom, bah. But it's really neat to hear, like, those drummers, like Porcaro was an amazing architect of drumming, and he was giving props to Bonham. So
I've told the story on here before about that Full in a Rain track when I played it for my son. I go, hey, check this out. And he's looking at me. He's like, what's the big deal? It's just a loop. I go, that's no loop.
yeah, there's no two lines alike with that guy.
That's a guy just sitting there and having an incredible pocket and timing and just doing it without recording a little bit and just keep looping that. And that's what they do now. But that was all done authentic. There was no looping in that, which makes it
like walking through the mud, that track.
Yeah.
So good.
When you hear Page and you hear his progression throughout Zeppelin and even afterwards, it always seemed like he kept chasing something, which a lot of great guitar players reach their pinnacle, reach their peak, and then they kind of stop and they kind of settle in with what they do and their signature. He kept exploring, and I think he continues to explore and look for different ways to get him going, whether it's obviously all the stuff in Zeppelin. And Zeppelin is one of the most probably evolved bands from their first album to their last album. They're two completely different bands.
Oh, I think
a lot of that's John Paul Jones, but a lot of that is Jimmy with his style and incorporating like the Middle Eastern elements into the blues and all that. And then going on with the Firm and doing the Outrider album, which was a great album. And then obviously with Coverdale Page, he's always trying to search for something. And I think what sets him apart from all the legends is constant curiosity.
No, wanting to be inspired. Like, he's just not, comfortable staying in the now. There's always there's a place to grow. Hopefully all of us say that. I mean, if you already did Led Zeppelin 1, why would you do Led Zeppelin 1 2.0? It's, if you got that craft and you know how to dig deep and create something fresh and new from what inspires you, to me, I don't care if you paint or you sculpt or whatever, that's what you want, unless you're the commercial guy and you want to just, wow, we did so good with that, let's just do another one of those. He's too much of an artist. Even hearing him talk, like at a guitar shop or something, where sometimes I think Fender did a really good one. It was when they were doing the Jimmy Page Telecaster. I think you can look that one up, where he's like going through, I bet he wrote a song from walking through the factory. He's like, he's got his phone and he's like, I never even imagined in a million years this is what it would be like. And you could just see he was just over the moon and talking about the guitar and how it got, all the different, metamorphosis that went through from when Beck gave him this cool guitar and then he wanted to have this persona and painting it. And then he had somebody house at his house or something, and he was an artist and he came back from his trip and he was exhausted. And the guy's like, hey man, I got a present for you. And he handed him the guitar and he's like, wow, this is beautiful. This paint job you did is great. Where's my guitar? That's it. This isn't my guitar. This is it. That was the one Jeff Beck had given him, and he had painted over the whole thing. And he tried to do some shows, and he's like, I can't play it anymore. So he had it all stripped completely down and redid what it is. And that's what the one that Fender was trying to do again, the Jimmy Page, Jeff Beck guitar. But it's just neat. He's always trying to make himself better, or not better. I mean, he is striving to do that, but I think he was just going for a persona so hard, and he did it. Those dragon pants and the stars and the bow, we didn't even touch that. Like using a bow on his strings, it was so cool. You remember those images of him?
Yeah.
With dragon pants and his shirt's wide open and he's probably in his 20s and he's just rock star. Unbelievable. Such a good image.
Iconic. When you think of Physical Graffiti, obviously that's my favorite Zeppelin album. because there's so many great songs. But when you think of all the elements of the guitar playing on that album, it really is, and it really shows off Jimmy Page's diversity. I mean, you've got Kashmir on that album. You've got 10 Years Gone, which is this beautiful cascade of a melody throughout the song. It's just completely beautiful. You've got this blues, iconic blues song, and In My Time of Dying, that is just blows my mind. And then you've got like Black Country Woman on there too, but the acoustic, and you've got, the Rover with the slide guitar. It's just, that is to me the quintessential Page album of guitar, because it just shows off everything in his arsenal.
And there's so much of it.
Yeah.
So much music. And the stories, like you're saying, the stories are all in there. What song was it? Achilles' Last Stand. Just unbelievable driving magic. It's just so cool. It's such an amazing body of work. Like you said, the metamorphosis of them from the first to the last album that they did. And
this episode is brought to you by Google. The spirit of innovation is deeply ingrained in America, and Google is helping Americans innovate in ways both big and small. The U.S. Department of Transportation is empowering staff with Google AI tools to rapidly synthesize research and streamline contracting, directly strengthening the safety and reliability of our nation's transit systems. This is a new era of American innovation. Learn more at g.co/American innovation.
And even not being afraid to go ahead and break out with Coverdale and, the Firm and other bands that he did. He did another one.
I think he did the jam with the Black Crowes.
Yeah. Oh my God. I forgot all about that.
Yeah. How did he capture his tone? I mean, we know the Telly and Gibson, and obviously the double neck was more for a live performance. But was there a certain equipment, a certain amp? He
had an arsenal of amp recording, right? And then he wanted to get all that sonic magic live. I don't think so. I think he used a bunch of stuff live. I don't think it was one thing or the other. I think, John Paul Jones pretty much stuck with his same bass rig that he used recording live, but I think he just was doing what he wanted for that particular show, For
that particular moment, maybe, from album to album, it was different live. And
yeah, sonically, he had to have it be the way it was, so much so, like you were saying, get the double neck guitar. It had to be a way to execute what was on the record, that came first.
As far as the idea that he's sloppy, because we hear that a lot from fans of these guitar players that are very precise and technically sound. I mean, Page was not. And I think that to me is what makes him so appealing, is because when you do hear him play live, he is a rock guitar player, but he brings so much of the heartfelt emotion.
It's more like abandon.
Yeah, that made blues great. Like, blues is all emotion, right? And it's all like improvising, where, Page is obviously blues bass, but rock guitar player, and he's bringing that emotion to the playing. And that's why there is that dribble or that slop. And I think it's all emotion. I think it's so rock and roll when you hear him. I mean, I think that in itself makes him the quintessential rock and roll guitar player, is because it's not neat. It's not tidy. It is Jimmy Page.
Yeah. And it's right where it's supposed to go. Like, it's in and out when it's done. He doesn't keep doing that stuff over it as the song is progressing beyond that solo section. If it even had a solo section, you alluded to that too. But I think it's first and foremost having the whole image, like everything's there in his brain from the first note to the last note. So it's orchestrated totally by him. Everything's where it's supposed to be, whether it's fumble fingering or articulated, amazing guitar structure, or storytelling like the epic tales of those cashmeres and everything. Just awesome.
When you hear his guitar playing as someone who's around guitars every day, what do you or how do you define his approach to playing, his attack?
I think he just uses everything that he has in his toolbox. I don't think he has like everything has to at least have this in it or that in it. Or maybe I'm misunderstanding the question, but I think he'll choose the right tool, right? He clearly has a lot of tools in his toolbox. Every guitar you could ever want for any kind of tone. And that's what he's going to use for it. You know, some of the later stuff with the Firm was so metallic and almost sounded like some of it was recorded inside a giant coffee can. You know, it's what he was going for and has those guitars to do it. So I don't think he would ever try to get like the Les Paul just because it's the 59 number one to execute a guitar part. I think he uses different things for different areas. That's for sure.
People say that he's, because of the dribble, the slop, he's a product of the studio, and he can't match what he does in the studio live because I don't know sometimes what that means, so to speak. I like the live version of things because that brings out the emotion.
Oh my God. Yeah. I think, you know, like the recording that they did that broke them basically in the 70s was some of the best lead playing he's ever done. All the stuff in Song Remains the Same, and like, it's great. It doesn't have to be anybody but you at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not Jimi Hendrix, you know, I'm not like even later, you know, I'm not the Black Crowes guitar players. That was what was so beautiful. He could come in and not be standing in for someone. It was coming in and adding what Jimmy Page would have done then on that record. I think it's powerful.
When you think of those greats in the 60s, Hendrix, Clapton, Beck, Page, what is the biggest difference Page has that the other guys don't?
I think he was more open to being outside the box of, you know, blues bass, but the dynamics that he was going to be using to tell the story. So I think Clapton, you know, clearly a great blues guitar player, but I think that was really where they drew the line there, because Clapton didn't want to do any of the stretching blues stuff that they were doing. And I think that was, you know, the beginning of the end for sure. And, you know, that's someone that's really rigid in his ways of these are the way the blues are played and this is how it's going to be done. And Jimmy clearly showed that, you know, there was other ways to do it. And Hendrix is a big blues guy too, but he was more about the abandon. It's fun to watch live Hendrix too.
Yeah.
Like no one was doing that stuff. It's crazy.
And Beck too, you know, and it's also, you know, kind of a tribute to Beck in Beck's Bolero and How Many More Times.
Yeah. Where
there's that bridge where he kind of takes from Beck's Bolero, which caused a lot of friction between the two of them for a long time. But yeah, I think, you know, the uniqueness of Beck was he was this blues based guy and then all of a sudden went into fusion. And I think he's probably, out of those four, the closest to the spirit of Page, in that he was always searching too as well.
Yeah, and he had clearly made that identifying like something that was going to single him out. Like it became his signature, you know, that one hand on the tremolo while he was picking, and, you know, almost a warbling sound that some people would have said was like fumble fingers. You know, it's kind of the same dynamic. It's you love it or you hate it. You're either all in or you're not. There were those people with Zeppelin too, you know, and later in life, that's why I was saying it's the greatest gift for me late, because it wasn't until much later I realized what he was actually accomplishing in that stuff, and then had to learn it. I had to learn all of it, all the tunings. Like, how the hell do you do that? And, thank God for YouTube.
Yeah, it is true. I mean, when you think about all the songs and the different styles that he did and the different tunings and, the different approach, it was basically a masterclass of playing guitar, of all the different styles, because he was able to incorporate all that stuff into their music. Because when you look at his contemporaries at the time, I mean, Clapton had that reckless abandon of playing, right? That reckless abandonment of playing in Cream. You think of Crossroads, you think of all that great stuff in that band. And then after that, he never went back to playing like that. It was more like you said, this is how the blues is supposed to be played. I'm going to stay within this box and not venture out of it.
Well, it's just what he saw it as, more of a classical blues. Like, this is the way blues is supposed to be played. And Clapton is an amazing guy in his whole stories. Like, there's just stories about that for one of your other shows, I'm sure. But I think they were just so vastly different that it made it great. We got 3-4, right? You had Clapton, Beck, and Jimmy Page all there at the same time that were, playing either in studios. And Sullivan, who was he was like the more country. Jim Sullivan was the other studio musician at the same time, but I think Jimmy Page was probably 5 or 7 years younger than him still, and was already in the studios. If it was rock, Page was doing it, and if it was country, Sullivan was doing it, and they had their own chops they were building over all that time. By the time he got to play in a band, he had a chance to hear what Clapton was doing and what Beck was doing, and that's cool. But how do I make my own identity? And just stretched out. And I think his biggest contribution was taking acoustic music and electric music. And also, he was one of the first guys to get away with changing tempo of a song. Like, that's the cardinal rule, right? Don't change the time, like in speed, not just cut time or something, but he was doing it, and it was working. He laughs about it in some of the interviews. Like, yeah, he actually did it and got away with it. Nobody beat us up on that one. A couple of songs.
That moment in rock history, when you think of those, obviously there's Hendrix, but when you think of Beck, Clapton, and Page, I mean, that at that moment is ground zero for rock guitar. And everything that kind of came after that, probably up until, Eddie Van Halen came along, was so centered around those three. And obviously Hendrix, the fourth, that had to be, I mean, to push an instrument forward like they all did, and each have their different approach and their different sound and tone. It's just an amazing moment.
Rock stars in their own, like, just persona, like
right.
Persona alone, like a photograph of any one of those guys is like superstar, and that's what made us all want to play guitar. Yeah, I got all the images in here.
Yeah, no, it's just when you think of that moment in time and you think of the instrument, because I've always said on this show that when you just look at guitar on its face, right, and you got a guitar in front of you, it's a limited instrument by itself.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's the player that unlocks what goes beyond those limitations, and to have those guys all around at the same time, completely, eviscerating the walls that have been put up by previous guitar players. It's just, I don't know if music fans really appreciate like that moment in the late 60s and early 70s.
Yeah, there was nothing like what they were doing. And it's that unbroken ground is, someone will do it again with something. Like, how could anything be new now? But there's still people doing some great stuff. I got to share an image with you. And your people here in the shop, because this thing of Jimmy Page is just too much. I'm going to see if you guys can see it here. This is the green room. That's a Clapton guitar, but this back here is the image.
Yeah.
That is like what it was all about for me. Oh God.
Amazing.
It's why, that's part of the reason I play guitar. Man. It's because of those pictures of God, him, Gary Moore, Jesus, more Les Paul guys. It is interesting that he is the Les Paul guy. You know, he was a telly guy. And that was just a tool he needed because the telly wouldn't do it. And it just ended up the photograph heard round the world kind of thing. It's really cool.
As far as Stairway to Heaven goes, it's regarded as the greatest rock song of all time, but his solo is also regarded as the greatest solo of all time. And it's almost like a song within a song, a story within a song played on guitar.
Oh, for sure.
What makes that solo so amazing and so inspiring to people?
There's so many things. And this is just a guitar luthier's opinion, right? Everyone's got their own. I could get flamed on this one, but I think the structure of the song, the placement of the solo, the build up right before the solo, everything, it's like a pedestal that he built for that solo. So it was already gonna be neat, right? And then he didn't, for whatever reason, didn't go with that chaotic solo. He went for more blues bass. Like the first run is Chuck Berry, but slower. Wow. So he stuck with a build up of it, right? And then it ends with the three notes, and then you get Robert Plant right away. So it's bookended with the story and ended with the crescendo of Plant just laying it out. And then, you know, it ends with that just wailing guitar over it in the background, just single notes or double stops. No, I think it might even be slide. But I think the solo is so epic because of the placement, number one, and because of the tone and the buildup, and then the way it's bookended by it's just great music on all the way around. The song is another epic tale too. How long is that song?
It's 8 minutes.
God bless
8 minutes. When you say the greatest rock and roll song of all time, it's 8 minutes long. Most rock songs are 3 to 4 minutes long. You know,
yeah,
it's just amazing. And what's cool about that solo, like it's kind of you touched on it, is there's so many elements in it. There's so many elements in the song, and the solo mirrors the buildup of the song because it starts out a certain way, and right before Plant comes back with the vocals, it's another pedestal. It's another platform that he raises the guitar solo to. Like it's slowly building up, just like the song is slowly building up.
Yeah,
and it's like this
layers and layers and layers.
Yeah,
for sure. That's why it is what it is. That's why you go to Guitar Center. They say no stairway, because every son that we both own, they both want to go in and do that.
It's just, yeah. I hadn't listened to Stairway in a while up until recently, and I started listening to it again, and I just became more impressed with the solo, just because of the way it is. And then you hear it in the Song Remains the Same live version. I've got bootlegs of it, and it's even extended more. Like he does a lot of improvising. And that was such the great thing too, is everybody, you know, not everybody, but there are people that say, oh, he can't match what he plays on an album live. Well, it's because he was self-taught, as you said in the beginning, and he loves to improvise.
Yeah, just playing, like you said, for the moment.
Yeah.
But I
And
think the keynote parts of solos he would put in there, like
yes.
that your ear needed to hear, because that's who he was.
Yeah.
You know what else is cool is that it's so timeless that in the last 2 years, I probably taught that song 4 different times to 4 different students that were under the age of 15 that asked me for the song. It's 2023. just sorry, keeping track. It's pretty neat.
That gives me chills. What you just said to me is like, this
I
song is
don't
from
operate it. They ask for it. It's like, how do you even know what that song is?
with
It just
1971 was when it came out. So it's 52 years old.
look at you get a gold star for math today.
Yeah, that's amazing. And again, even my son who plays guitar, and you were the first one to show him his first his guitar chord. You know, we were talking about Zeppelin one day, and he's like, he's in his band. He's one of his members. One of the band wanted to cover Zeppelin, and he's like, "We're not covering Zeppelin." And he was like, "Why?" He goes, "We're not worthy enough to cover Zeppelin."
Oh, yeah. That's kind of fun.
Well, it's because everybody like puts them on a pedestal. Like, you've got to be the goods if you want to play Zeppelin. You got to be tight, and you got to be good.
Or you got to sing like Robert Plant. Jesus.
Yeah. I mean,
No.
that's the whole element of that band was, obviously Page and Plant are the faces, but going on beyond them, but Jonesy and Bonham, like you said,
Absolutely. Super group.
It's just blows my mind. And you think,
thank God for Zeppelin.
You think as I've gotten older, I become less and less interested in them. But what's so unique about their music is every time I hear their songs, I find something different. To this day, I find something different in there.
Yeah, you'll hear something. You're like, how have I missed that? Like, in the background. But that's the beauty of music. I mean, really stuff that affects you and resonates with you, and you can be inspired. You just feel better during the day. You can write songs. You can be more productive at work and everything because you're in a special headspace. I love it. I'm so grateful to have so much music in my life.
Yeah.
And guys like you dragging it out of us.
Well, yeah, music is just, there's so much discovery about music. And even if you've heard a song hundreds of times, you'll still find something that maybe you didn't hear before, or you may feel something you didn't feel before by listening to it. That's what's so unique about the art form.
So awesome.
When you think of Stairway and you think of that being the legacy of the band and pretty much the legacy of Jimmy Page too, do you think it's the correct definition of Page's legacy is that song?
Yeah, I think so. When you hear him talk about it, it's not just me. I think he sees that was the pinnacle of him getting his ideas down and executing exactly what he wanted, and then having the magic of Robert Plant writing the lyrics, like as he says in Page's words, was he's just sitting in the corner and he's just scribbling in his little notepad, and he had 90% of the lyrics while he was just playing it out how it was going to go. And John Paul Jones saying, "Hey, we should put a recorder in here," and he's like, "I really wanted a keyboard part," and they ended up using it. And so all of those things, he was making this epic tale musically, and then Robert Plant wrote those lyrics that, for the most part, is the most iconic Zeppelin song ever.
His guitar also spoke too, almost like another vocalist in the band.
Oh, so many guitars, so many pieces, and like you said, like a tapestry of music, and it builds and builds, and it's layers and layers and layers from the first like acoustic guitar with nothing else to more, and no drums till midway through the third set of verses. Just awesome. I think that's definitely the defining Led Zeppelin song in answer to that question.
What's your favorite song by Jimmy Page?
Difficult to say. Friends is not my favorite song. That's just, that thing has so much tension in it, and the tuning is so cool, and you can execute it with one acoustic guitar and a group of people. Again, you're not Robert Plant, but everybody thinks they are when they're singing along. So you don't have to sing as loud when they're all singing. But I think that's probably one of my favorites. Achilles' Last Stand, the intro of that is just awesome. There's so many. Everything on Physical Graffiti.
You talk about Friends, and I mentioned like the tension that he was able to create with the playing and with the arrangement. And that song is a great definition of that tension, because you feel like something is going to happen. Like you just feel like this. It's almost like a movie where the music is building up to something, and there's that tension. You know someone's going to pop out and do something, and that Friends just does that over and over again.
Oh my God, it's so good.
Well, Mike, once again, it's been a blast, as always, talking these great legends of guitar playing. You know, we started with Eddie Van Halen, then we did Malcolm and Angus, and now to Jimmy Page. And I can't thank you enough for your time and your thoughts.
Always a pleasure. Always inspiring. I'll probably have to listen to Zeppelin for the next week, just on every single, record, and pull out the weird B-side stuff and check it all out again. It's great to talk to you, Jay.
Great to see you. Great to talk to you. Thanks again, Mike. I appreciate it.
Are you visiting soon?
The plan is to be out there between Christmas and New Year.
Oh, beautiful. Couple months.
Yeah.
I can't. Well, stay safe. And thanks again for an opportunity to be on a great show. It's always inspiring and fun to hear the people speak on it. I'm glad you have a funnel to get those people to us out here in little TV land.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, Mike, it's been a blast. You can visit Mike Longacre on Facebook and Instagram, and those will all be in the notes of the show. So you can click on those links and go visit him. And if you're in Southern California, in the beach towns near Redondo and Manhattan and Hermosa, his shop is right off the Strand in Hermosa. You can't miss it. Go check it out. It's a beautiful gallery of guitars. It's got, you walk in there and your mouth just drops. I mean, it's just absolutely gorgeous and beautiful. So do that next time you're in Southern California. And it's been way too long, but we'd like to thank Mike once again. And of course, yes. And I'm Jay Scott. This has been another episode of The Hook Rocks. Thanks again for tuning in. Stay safe, take care of each other, and we will talk soon. Thank you.